Hi, I'm Mike Bush.
I'm Paul New.
And I'm Colleen Sterling. Welcome to Ask the A&Ps from AOPA.
Ask the A&Ps is the show where we take your trickiest maintenance questions and do our very best to answer them. So if you have a tricky one or just a profoundly puzzling one, email it to us at podcasts@aopa.org and for a chance to get on the show.
Or if you have a particularly easy question, you can send that one directly to me and click follow and subscribe to be on the show and don't miss an episode.
And you can get
if you'd like to
answers.
If you'd like to be on our email list and you aren't already on it, the easiest way to put yourself on it is to text the word SAVVY, S-A-V-V-Y, to 33777. And little bot will ask you for your name and email address and add you to our list. So text SAVVY, S-A-V-V-Y, to 33777 to put yourself on the list.
So I'm generally a Luddite when it comes to aviation technology. I fly steam gauges and I love my metal Cessna. But I was really astounded to read in AOPA Pilot's last issue about the new Cirrus Autoland feature. Thinking from a maintenance perspective, it's got so many interconnects and automated features connected to my radios and my throttles and yada,
Brakes.
yada. And brakes, yeah. Flaps, probably, putting down all your, everything you need to land, including telling you when to get the heck out of the airplane because it's on the runway and it's safe to exit. I'm just wondering how will we maintain all these systems, and what if they go wrong as we make airplanes more complex? The risk of things going wrong also increases, and that concerns me.
Yeah. So I have in my email, I haven't had a chance to do it yet, but Cirrus, as Cirrus does, sends out training. So there's maintenance training on the G7 Plus is what they're calling it. And it's an overview, tells, I don't know what it says, but I'm sure it says all the stuff that I should need to know. And yeah, I think you're right. There's going to be a lot of, with every solution comes a problem or problems. And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of stuff to address, little glitches, software issues, things that don't go right. But it's so seldom that it will get used that I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of testing to verify that it works, but it's not obvious to me. And you certainly don't want to use it tested in flight, because when you do, it sends off all kinds of warnings. If you hit the button, it sends stuff. You're going to be writing letters to a lot of folks explaining, no, it wasn't a real thing. Junior just hit the button back in the back to see, it looked like a panic button.
You mean it'll be a guarded switch?
Yeah. And it's accessible Paul, from the back seat.
Yeah.
You're saying this is more like the parachute T handle than it is like a normal avionics thing. Like there won't be instructions for continued airworthiness requiring at least one auto land per year or something to make sure the system works.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any operational checks, because anytime you engage it, it sends off warning lights and bells all over ATC.
But they do check these things in the airlines. They do Autoland checks like monthly on airframes. So why not have a mode where you test this as well? I could see
maybe tell it.
Yeah, maybe
we're going to auto land it.
Training.
Auto land silent mode that says, auto land the plane, but don't tell anybody you're doing it.
don't call my wife, right?
Yeah, don't call my wife. Here's the thing. If you had that, everybody's going to use it. It's like, I don't want to land. So tell it, I want to land at Jackson and hit the button. Look at that. What a perfect landing I made. Even Flysto rated it at 99%. So,
Well, I think the report said that it was a bit of a harsh landing. It wasn't a perfect landing, but it was a safe landing. So
yeah.
It was
maybe
an
you don't
arrival.
mind.
An arrival.
Hey, you're on the ground,
Yeah,
but
take that,
You
you
know,
runway.
this brings up sort of this general thing that has bothered me for a long time, and that is that it used to be back in the day that there was sort of a crisp line of demarcation between the airframe and the avionics. And that line has gotten more and more and more blurred as the airplanes become more and more and more electric and electronic and automated.
Yeah.
And that it's sort of a problem because there are a lot of Cirrus maintenance shops. I think yours is one of them that does not have an in-house avionics capability. So, I mean, if you have an avionics problem, you're supposed to take it to an avionics shop. But nowadays, it's not clear where the problem is.
And the avionics shops don't have access to the Cirrus information. It's totally integrated. So with the G7s and G7 Plus, for instance, we have access to everything that we need to troubleshoot all the Garmin issues. No, we're not going to troubleshoot high SWR on a comm antenna, that sort of thing. But in terms of software and the integration work, we can do all of that. And Cirrus has classes that we take for the Garmin equipment, and like the one that they've sent me the email invitation to. So it's and there's no box repair anymore.
I know the first G7 Plus that comes into your shop, Paul, you're definitely going to take it up and do an auto land. There's no way you're going to pass that up.
Oops. Oh, gee, sorry. That may be worth writing the letters.
Say, Helen, if you get a call.
I mean, I wonder if a maintenance requirement at the annual inspection is to test the auto land, if there's a mode to test it.
I would, now I'm guessing, I haven't looked at the data or I haven't looked at the reports, but I'm sure there's going to be ground test modes, ground test features. There would have to be of some sort, because you would want to know, do both brakes engage at the same time and that sort of thing. So I'm sure there's going to be something, but I'm just wondering how many letters it would take if I did that post-maintenance flight check and hit the button. Of course, you don't get to choose which airport it lands at. It may not choose the airport I want to go to. I got to think through that.
So now the auto land obviously has throttle servos, right? It's got to have auto throttle. So, question is, will that auto throttle capability be usable in other than auto land situations, like when the airplane gets to the top of the climb that automatically comes back or something?
Well, we will see. We haven't seen our first one yet.
Or the ability to maintain constant airspeed.
Well, all I know is the pilot's days are numbered. I wonder if it's going to fly at Lena Peak or Richa Peak.
No.
Well, Tesla launched its robotaxi thing in Austin yesterday, and I wonder how long it's going to be before Elon tackles an airplane.
God help us.
I mean, it seems to me that an autonomous airplane is a much easier problem than an autonomous car, like by an order of magnitude.
Yeah, I would.
So
agree with that.
it'd probably be just a weekend project for Elon.
Sure. Yeah, after he's done cleaning up the debris from his last exploded rocket.
Yeah. I love the video. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say this auto land feature also triggers if the airplane determines that you're hypoxic.
Oh.
I don't know how it does that. I know a lot of pilots that act like they're always hypoxic.
Well, does it determine if you are hypoxic or if you're acting hypoxic? That's a big difference.
I think it's acting, but I'm not sure.
You'd have to have a little clip on your earlobe for it to actually determine if you're really hypoxic.
This is funny. I have procrastinated doing the little training from Cirrus. I'm going to stay up late tonight and watch it now. This is
well, I think
got me wound up.
I think it was
But-
Dave Hirschman who wrote the article for AOPA. It sounds like a Dave Hirschman tackling thing. And it's very eye-opening. If you should take a look at it if you haven't.
I think we need to come back to this issue about Autoland being enableable by somebody in the back seat. Now that sounds like really dangerous. I would need to really be confident in who was in the back seat of my airplane.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the button is overhead. It's overhead and just behind the pilot and co-pilot in the middle. So people in the back seat can reach it. I mean, they're the ones that would be in panic mode.
Does it have a cover and a pin?
No.
Yeah, it's a guarded switch. Yeah.
It's
But it's
there's
there.
a nice video. Cirrus has a real nice video showing it being operated.
Is there a disable the backseat switch mode?
Probably not.
Boy,
but if you want to disable it, all you have to do is turn off the autopilot, and it clears it.
Okay.
So,
I see.
Yeah, I remember I was flying across Nashville. Was this 2 years ago? And a guy in the TBM called, and he had somehow engaged this Autoland feature. I forget what they call it on the TBM. And he didn't know how to disengage it. And he's telling ATC, I'm sorry, I'm not in control of the airplane. It's going to whatever airport.
Doing
and then at some point in the, so everybody has to listen, right? And I'm just out of range, and I hear somebody call up and tell him, disconnect the autopilot and it'll be fine.
Pull the breaker. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to pull the breaker.
No,
you just hit the autopilot disconnect button and it clears it.
Just the button on the yoke.
I assume, yeah.
Well, that's what they should have told those MAX pilots that crashed.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. They just need to disconnect the system.
Disconnect the autopilot.
That's for sure. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
it's the same problem. Yeah.
Our first question is from William, who wants to hear from the guru. Oh gosh, from the gurus.
Who's that?
We make it up as we go along. Anyway, so what's up, William?
Yes. So my question kind of touches a little bit back on the fundamentals. Basically, as mechanics who also fly, what would you say is particularly different about the way you perform pre-flight inspections? I know everyone does them slightly differently. And what kind of things specifically do you look for that other pilots may overlook?
What kind of airplanes do you fly?
Currently, just got my commercial, so 172s, but even general principles, anything is appreciated.
So my general principle is I always check the last thing that I worked on because it's usually got something wrong with it.
Yep.
But in general, I mean, if you're not working on your own airplane, if you had an airplane that was in the shop for something, like they were rebalancing your elevator or changing a tire, I'm going to look really carefully at the work that was done and make sure it looks like it's going to stay on the airplane, right?
Yep. And on a Cessna, since you fly those, on all, I shouldn't say all Cessnas, certainly all the single engine Cessnas, where the trim tab arm is attached, there's a bolt with a castellated nut, and the forward end of the arm, which is at the pivot area of the elevator and the horizontal, always check that those are installed, and the castellated nuts and the cotter pins are installed. Every single pre-flight, especially after maintenance. The cotter pins have been left off, and usually the thing is when it fails, if it fails on the ground, yay, nobody dies.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My big thing is if the airplane was moved by anybody, like the FBO.
Like Hunter.
There's a whole bunch of things to check, like that the stop block hasn't been broken off, and that the up block hasn't been broken off, and
toe limits aren't twisted.
Yeah.
Toe limits. Yeah, that's a biggie. You know how they always taught you when you're doing your control check in the run-up area that, the left aileron goes up or the right aileron goes up? That's after a re-rigging because airplanes have been rigged backwards and that'll kill you real quick.
Yeah.
So
but there's sort of an underlying theme here, which is
Maintenance.
that if the airplane was left alone, then it's probably fine.
Yeah.
If somebody messed with something,
Yeah.
that's what you
That's what you got to worry
focus on.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and check. I know this sounds weird, but depending on what time of year, birds. Well, where'd you say you were?
Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I don't know when the birds nest in Hawaii, but
all
in the
time, year
southeast,
round.
man, the birds build a nest as far aft in the engine compartment as they can, and they can build a nest and lay eggs in a day. So you want to be sure that you check that. Check your pitot covers and the fuel vent covers. Nobody has covers on their fuel vents. And dirt daubers, I don't know if you have those in Hawaii. It's a long commute from the 48 for a bug like that to get to, but they could make it, I'm sure. But they will put a nest 4 or 5 inches up into your fuel vent. And that can prevent fuel from gravity feeding down to the engine. Not supposed to, but it happens.
And do you know how to check for mud daubers in your fuel vent lines? If you can't see it, do you know how you might check?
Oh, you're going to love this.
Yeah.
Blow into it.
You blow into it.
Put your mouth on it and blow. Yeah.
Yeah. And you open the fuel cap and have somebody listen and be sure they can hear the air blowing into the tank.
Yeah, and if you come away with a taste of mud dauber excrement, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, not what you want to know. It should blow. it should blow easily.
Freely. Yeah.
Yeah, freely. Absolutely. What are the post maintenance? That's always the thing, because mechanics. I don't know. People that have been to my classes get tired of hearing this, but mechanics suffer from the same problem that pilots suffer from, and that is that they're human, and mechanics can make. People will complain, oh, that mechanic, he left a screw out of my inspection panel. What else did he do wrong? And, they get all drama about it. And I usually, if I'm in a snarky mood, I try, or whatever.
Couldn't happen.
Couldn't happen. But if I'm in a snarky mood, then I will ask, well, on your last flight, did you miss any radio calls? Were your altitudes held plus or minus 20 or 50 feet? Did you make a perfect landing? By the way, did you calculate weight and balance? Is that not a required item that you do on every flight? So all of those things that we as pilots don't always do are equivalent or even worse in terms of safety of flight than leaving out a screw in inspection panel. So we talk a lot about maintenance, and it's not because mechanics are bad. It's because mechanics are human. And you check those things for that reason.
Yeah.
It's why you pilots have to have recurrent training all the time, and mechanics do not.
Don't.
Do not.
That's one of the big scandals of aviation, in my view.
Anyway.
Makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. No, I'm really appreciative. And I remember Mike saying on another episode, it'd be really nice if the mechanics could fly in the plane after every.
I always say if I was ever administrator for the day, that's the first rule I would put in is the mechanic who signs off an annual is required to be on the first flight after maintenance.
Well, at my shop, I typically do all the post-maintenance flight checks. We ask customers if they want their airplane flown. And matter of fact, I have 3 that are waiting for me to go fly. 2 are post-engine installations. And so, I do all of that. Because
especially if it's a Cirrus G7 Plus, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to push the auto land button and see what happens. See how much paperwork that starts. But if something's not going to be right, I want to find it. I don't want the owner to find it when they show up. I want to find it, take care of it. And when the owner gets there, I want them to fly away with no problems. So, but not every shop has that.
Because if the owner finds it, he's going to be mad at you.
That's right.
It's just simple self-defense.
It's self-defense, self-preservation, and most owners are happy with that. Yeah. Watch out for maintenance. Watch out for bugs.
Beautiful. That helps a lot now.
You probably have
No.
some sort of exotic bug in Hawaii that I don't know about that, eats aluminum or something. So be careful.
I think it's more important to watch out for people than for bugs, frankly.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
Yes. And here in Hawaii, we do have a bug that eats aluminum. Some of that corrosion.
Oh, really?
Corrosion.
Well,
Yeah,
just
it's called the
salt
corrosion.
water. And,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you want all the oil on the belly you can get, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're excited about that. So
Yeah. No, very interesting question.
Yeah. That's a good question, William.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for your time as well.
En-
Oh, take
Thanks
enjoy.
for
care.
calling.
Yeah. Enjoy flying in Hawaii.
Yeah, paradise. Yeah.
Beautiful
Okay.
views. Yes. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. We'll
Take
see
care.
you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Our next question is from Willie, who's wondering if you need an A&P to do an AMOC. Go ahead, Willie.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've listened to many of your guys' podcast episodes, and a lot of it is turning the wrenches, but there's also another side, which is the regulatory and, how do we look at these ADs and assess and go forward with making an alternative means of compliance to an AD. And so with your years of experience, my question is kind of based on what is the process? There's an advisory circular I've read through. How do you guys do it? Who can initiate it? Can just an owner do it? Does it have to be A&P or an IA? And then just good information to provide and, things that have been helpful for you, whether it's tips to be polite when asking for those modifications.
Well, the applicant for an AMOC is an operator. So any owner can do it. And every an AMOC is a request for an alternative means of compliance with an airworthiness directive, and every airworthiness directive lists the responsible aeronautical engineer at the FAA office that issued the AMOC that you're supposed to contact and try to negotiate the AMOC. It might be helpful to have an A&P to discuss with an A&P what you're proposing as the AMOC to see whether the A&P thinks it's reasonable before you bring it before the engineer at the FAA, just as a sanity check. But you certainly don't need to be an A&P to request an AMOC.
Yeah, I looked at it. FAR 3919 says anyone may propose to FAA an alternative method of compliance if it provides an acceptable level of safety. That's what they're looking for, is
Yeah.
another way to comply with the AD. So anyone means you can do it.
But normally normal AMOCs are only they only benefit the operator that applies for them. Now, there is such a thing as a global AMOC,
Global, yeah.
Interesting.
which typically is requested by a manufacturer, where they're saying we want an alternative means of compliance that doesn't just apply to us but applies to everybody. That's obviously a much harder thing to get. But a regular AMOC is just an operator going to the FAA saying, we would like to do something different than what the AD calls for. And you make an argument that this would provide an equivalent level of safety. And if the engineer is convinced of that, he can issue an AMOC to you.
Yeah. And in Willie's case, yeah, go ahead, Willie. You can explain your particular interest in this.
Yeah, I want it for me as, there's a bunch on these de Havilland Beavers that, as I've read service bulletins and technical bulletins, the AD that came out is a little more based on like the use of the aircraft. One is on the tailplane, and in the technical bulletin, they said something to the effect of, we have only seen this on beavers on skis due to asymmetrical loading when taxiing. Well, if it's never on skis, why should you do it? Obviously, there's a few rubs, and like if you're on floats and someone grabs the 11-foot lever, you can damage it. You look at the Canadian AD, and they'll say if you have these mods and you find a crack here, you can fly up to additional 400 hours. The US AD says immediate replacement. And so there's just weird stuff like that. And there's a few other ADs that also have their own erroneous stuff or issues that I just kind of wanted to make it a little bit easier as a Part 91 operator to be capable of flying the plane and not having it, down all the time to do the compliance.
You were pointing out that some
actually,
of these beavers get the crap beaten out of them by operating in difficult environments, salt water, and you said that the ADs appear to be written for the lowest common denominator. And yours is a pleasure beaver, right? Is there such a thing?
Well, this is kind of interesting, because I can imagine going to the responsible engineer at the ACO and saying, I would like permission to do it the way Canada says to do it. And who knows more about beavers than Canada? It seems like if Canada is behind this program, then that's a pretty convincing argument.
Yeah.
Well, the Canadian one still wants you to do the check every 2 years, but they just have a different, I guess, requirement for repair if a crack is found, which I found, it's one of those deals. Oh, you found a crack, but you don't have to do anything.
So are you asking to do the inspection less frequently or never or what?
It was less frequently. So I did submit the AMOCs a couple weeks ago, and it was to do it less frequently, kind of based on a 400-hour deal, using that Canadian number, and just say, okay, 400 hours, that can be in our case every 5 to 8 years. And so it goes from an every 2-year inspection to an every 5 to 8 years, and tie it in with a few. The wing strut has a every 2-year eddy current inspection AD, and tie that into the same deal. So I put, an 8-page AMOCs together, and all the associated documents, and read stuff from the 60s about flight stresses that like the Royal Canadian Aeronautical Association put together for the de Havilland Beaver in 1964. And then there's also other things where they have a standard beaver at 5,100 gross weight. Then you have an STC that can up it to like 5,350, and then 5,600, then 6,000 just came out. Well, you have to change all these different stress points. But now if you're flying it at 5,600, but you didn't have to change this one component, and you go fly it, you increase that stress on that component to break. Well, if we're back at 5,100, we're designed, going back to the service bulletin that the Royal Aeronautical Engineers did, saying it's a 20,000 hour part under normal category, but you still have to check it every 2 years. So there's just, I don't know, hopefully I found enough ancient history that they'll read that and go, oh, the folks that pushed for the AD didn't read that stuff, and they'll issue me a serial number specific AMOC.
So did you call and speak to them before you send in the AMOCs?
I did speak to the New York ACO, and they can be there. Trying to be friendly on that one.
Yeah. Understood.
Is it New York ACO who issued the AD?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you get stuck.
Yeah.
So do you have any clue when they're going to respond? course, no, you don't. But
No, I mean, a lot of times with websites, they kick you that automatic response. Hey, we received your deal. You sent it to the right email address. That's the funny one. It's a 15 letter deal.
So here's how it can work. I sent in an application for permission to build my new hangar addition, which the footings are finally being poured this week. It only took 6 years, but I sent this letter in online. The application says, here are the four corners of the building. Here's how tall it's going to be. 9 months later, I get no response. And there's no phone number to call. There's an email. So you send an email, no response. Long story short, come to find out that person that was in that office moved somewhere else and nobody had replaced them. And so all the applications were just piling
up.
And nobody's looking at them. So to that end, I would say call the ACO again and say, hey, I sent in the letters. Is there a way that you can check and see that they were received? I think that would be well worth your time, because you may find out that, oh yeah, they went to a dead end and they'll sit there for an eternity and nobody will know.
Yeah.
That's a sad story.
It's a sad story.
Hey, Mike, I have a question for you. If an individual like Willie is granted an AMOC and then the airplane is sold, is the AMOC invalidated at that point?
Well, it probably depends on how the AMOC is written, whether the AMOC is granted to the operator or whether it's granted to the aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay, because I could envision that the next owner beats the crap out of this plane and flies it on snow, and all of Willie's arguments are invalid at that point.
Yeah, I think that AMOCs are typically issued to an operator rather than to an aircraft.
Okay, interesting.
That seems to fit logic.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean it's true.
It's true.
Well, I'm impressed that you even submitted an AMOC application, Willie. It's never occurred to me to do that. So I've always been a victim, and you're taking you're being proactive here, and I think that's good.
Yeah, that is
well
great.
done.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe you can convince them that you can put like strain gauges on these things, and as long as the strain gauge doesn't read over X, then you don't have to inspect or something.
I mean, yeah, a lot of fun stuff. But yeah, I'll call the ACO and see kind of where they're at. And, it's kind of like one of those deals. Do you want to do it right after, or do you want to wait 3 weeks and give them some time to get through the pile?
Well, if you send it in the mail and it didn't go through Memphis, it could already be there. Just if the mail goes through Memphis, all bets are off. It could take months. So, but yeah, it'd be worth a phone call just to see if they got it.
Okay.
Give you some confidence.
Yeah. I don't like to be the squeaky wheel, but my husband is the one that jumps all over people and gets things done. So I guess there's two ways to do everything.
Well, you're just asking, hey, just checking to see if you got it.
Yeah.
You don't have to push it any further than that. Just see if they got the letter.
Yeah.
2 weeks from now, then you call them.
Yeah.
So do you get to fly this Beaver?
Yeah, I've taken over most of the operation.
That's so cool.
Work with my dad on all the aspects, and then actually, I did a 147 school and have my A&P, and so that's
Excellent.
Makes it a little easier.
What a fabulous airplane.
Is it on floats?
No.
Currently, it's on wheels.
Yeah.
Huh. But just don't put it on skis, right?
Yeah, it's just no skis.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wanted it when I was a kid to be on skis, but now that I'm the one moving it more and more, I realize what my dad was telling me. You don't want to put a Beaver on skis. I'm like, okay, it's a really heavy plane.
It's a really heavy plane. Yeah. Wow, that's
great question.
Extremely cool. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully people will hear this, and like you said, Colleen, people will start being like proactive. And hey, if we send a lot of AMOCs, maybe they'll look at ADs in a different light.
And don't park the Beaver in Fond du Lac, right?
Oh,
In where?
Oh yeah, it'll sink. Yeah,
don't bring it to
park
Oshkosh.
Yeah.
Park it in the mud.
Park it in the mud. Have a crane, have a jack so you can lift the wheels out and put something underneath them to get it out.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
it's like, whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm on the West Coast. I don't know much about the East Coast flying and weather, and you're talking about Memphis. So
Oh, we assumed you were from New York. Okay.
A West Coaster trying to deal with the New York ACO.
Oh,
that
so
just
sorry.
does not sound good.
Left coast and right coast just do not mix, dude.
uh-oh.
Oh well.
Well, good luck.
Yep.
And
Okay.
I hope you get it.
All right.
Excellent question, too. Thank you.
That's a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Our next question is from Chris, who's wondering what's wrong with his new engine. Boy, I hate these questions.
Yeah.
What's up, Chris?
Alrighty, so just as a bit of background, I'm 40 years as a PPL, and I used to own a Piper Arrow with a colleague, and we refurbished that, no trouble at all. And then I decided I wanted a plane with a bit more backcountry performance, six-seater. So I bought a sort of an older 1975 Cessna 206, bought into New Zealand brand new, and worked in a commercial environment, well looked after. So I bought it when it had about 1,700 hours on the engine, and I ran it in on condition for a period, and then went to upgrade it. And I had a colleague who'd put in a IO 550N using the Summit STN and STC, and so the engineer who did that had one himself. He's an engineer and an A320 pilot. And so he took it and installed it, and then the first problem actually came when the AD came out to say that the counterweights had a problem with the retaining rings, and so the engine had two cylinders taken off it before it had even been fired up. It had been mounted on the aeroplane, and that delayed it a bit. So I had to get some external engineers in, and they checked it, and there was no problem with the installation. So we carried on, installed the engine, and then I went with the engineer who was a pilot, and he's a Cessna 206 pilot, and we flew it the first hour, no trouble at all. And then I carried on running the engine in using the Continental guidelines and the Savvy guidelines, and I've been a long-term Savvy member, and I read all of Mike's stuff, and I've even tried to do some of your seminars, Paul, for the 206, but you cancelled it.
Sorry.
Maybe you'll run one again sometime soon.
Well, come to a 210 class. It's close enough.
Yeah, maybe I should.
Come to Jackson this week. We're doing one this week. It starts Thursday at noon. You can get here in time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Fly to 206.
Not in the 206. No. I carried on running it, and they said, look, just measure the oil burn, and it seemed to be a quart every 4 hours, and it seemed to be running pretty well. And I was taking my wife out on a trip actually, and she said, the engine doesn't seem to be running too well here, and it was just slightly rough, and we were over water, so that always gets everyone a bit anxious. And I landed and dropped her off, and then flew home. And when I landed at 20 hours, I had a mag failure. And so the engineer came out and checked it, and he said, yeah, it's definitely a failed magneto. And it was a factory remanufactured engine, and I wish in hindsight I'd just bought a new one. But anyway,
your wife is a wonderful engine monitor.
Yeah, she was.
I would make sure she's on every flight.
Yeah, she just she's very doesn't like anything that's not smooth. And the one thing about this 206 it's got an MT prop on it, and it's beautiful and smooth.
Yeah.
Anyway, they came out, and when they took the magneto apart, it was clear that it had been intermittently failing for a period. The little metal connectors had been touching and had burned over multiple places, so it had been coming apart slowly. And then it failed. So I had to have it repaired, put a new one in. And then we carried on flying it, and I sent every flight's been sent up to Savvy, and I listened to all the articles about it. And then this burn just wouldn't go away. It kept burning a quart every 4 hours. So we changed it at 25 hours. The installing engineer suggested an oil air separator, so we had one of those fitted. Didn't seem to make any difference.
No.
He started to worry about there being some glazed cylinders, so I did lots of low-level 500 feet, wide open throttle, long distance, beating the engine as much as I could, and still didn't seem to get any better. It still flew beautifully, don't get me wrong. It was a beautiful, smooth engine. But then the savvy advice was do a ring flush, and they sent me the protocol. We're at 100 hours now. Neither of the two engineers were keen to do it. My own engineer at my home airport and the installing engineer at a remote airport. So eventually I managed to talk my own engineer into doing it. So I said, well, we should borescope the engines as well. And he dragged out some old borescope that he had, which is this little tiny thing. And I said, look, I'll go and buy one. So I bought one, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I'm used to putting fiber optic things into side joints. So I'd done a lot of arthroscopy. So I said, we'll do this together. So we'd had an initial borescope with the installing engineer, and it hadn't followed the Savvy protocol, but I sent those photos up to Savvy, and they said they looked all right. But this time with my own borescope, we did the 11 shots per cylinder. It took us about 40 minutes to do the first one. By the last one, we were down to about 5 minutes. We were pretty slick at it.
Yep.
And it seemed okay, except there was a gold sheen in the inside of the cylinder. And it's funny, I had one of my patients was a race car engineer who built engines, and I showed them to him, and he said, oh, that's not a good sign. I suspect that you've glazed your cylinders. Anyway, we then, from Savvy, got the recommendation we do the ring flush. So we went and did the ring flush, and lo and behold, the first two cylinders, 1 and 3, were fine. When we got to cylinder 5, it took us about 5 pints to wash it through. It was quite dramatic. It was just locked until we could force it past.
Yep.
Cylinder 2 wasn't too bad. It took a pint, and then it seemed to clear it all. So here I was at 125 hours. I'd washed the engines. I had a borescope that said everything looked all right. And it seemed to make a huge difference. So the plane went off flying. In the first about 10 hours, I only burned a quart, and I thought, this is where I need to be. There's a continuation, which I should continue with since I submitted my written story. We have done another 25 hours, and we're now at 150 hours, and the oil burn started to get heavy again, went back up to about a quart every 4 or 5 hours. So we did the whole thing again. We borescoped it a second time, and we ring washed it a second time. And this time cylinder 2 was gummed up. And so that's cleared away. And I've only flown it about 3 hours since, and it seems that it's now burning less oil than it had done. So really, it's a mystery. I've got one engineer saying I should do a hone, just get on and re-hone the cylinders. And the other engineer saying, we'll just wash this out. It seems to make a difference. And so my question is, why did these rings clog up in the first place? And secondly, I've sent 2 full sets of borescope photos up to Savvy. Do I have a problem with glazing in my cylinders or not? And what should I do? And then does it all have any relationship to that failed magneto at the beginning? Because that would have caused the cylinders to run rich, and that's one of the problems with causing glazing. There you go.
How long did the engine sit from the time, as far as you know, from the time it was built until the time you ran it?
So it came into New Zealand in April, and it was fitted, and then it came into New Zealand in February, and it was April before we could run it, because we had to let it sit for about 6 weeks while we got these engineers to come in and take the 2 cylinders off. It was in a hangar, obviously, and it had been partially installed. So they'd started the installation and then waited until they had to take the 2 cylinders off. They didn't have to take the engine out of the aeroplane.
Did it sit in storage at Continental for a period of time before it came to New Zealand?
I have no idea. Yeah.
And what kind of oil are you running in the engine?
So we ran 100 straight, Aeroshell 100, and we ran that to 150 hours, and we've just changed to 100W or W100, I can't remember, plus cam guard.
You went 100 hours on straight?
150 hours?
150 hours?
Oh, Well,
Oh,
that's a big part of the
Right.
problem.
Yep.
Okay.
We don't like to see you run that oil more than about 10 hours before
Yep.
changing it to an AD oil, because the problem with first of all, I've seen no evidence that straight mineral oil is better for break-in
Yep.
Right.
than an AD oil like W100. It's a tradition that dates back from before World War II or something, but
Right.
but the problem with non-AD oil is that that you get a lot of sludge buildup,
Yeah.
In the rings.
and that's probably that's
What I've had.
that's what you were seeing, and normally you wouldn't get that level of sludge buildup. Although, first of all, sludge buildup in the IO 550N engine is worse than most engines, because it's a large
Right.
it's a large displacement engine with a very small oil
Small
capacity.
sump.
It's an 8-quart sump, and most people run it at 6, because if you run it higher than that, it just blows the
out.
exits out. So you're asking a small volume of oil to absorb a large volume of crap. That's a technical term. And
We change the oil every 25 hours.
That helps.
Yeah, but still,
not enough.
No. You need to be using ashless dispersant oil.
yeah, I think I've literally never heard of somebody running straight weight oil for 150 hours unless it was a radial engine.
Okay. Well, I was taking the advice of my engineer.
Well, that
not
particular
did he-
piece of advice was not really very good.
Did he think
No.
it hadn't broken in?
Yeah.
Or you thought it was glazed? That's what you were saying. So,
I had these engineers telling me the reason the oil is burning is because it's glazed, when in reality, I think what was happening was that I was using the straight oil way beyond the time I should have been, and I was just bunging up my cylinders. And I've been cleaning these cylinders out twice now, and we've finally changed to 100 W100 with cam guard.
It'll be good now.
It should settle down, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, I wouldn't pull the cylinders and hone them. I would definitely not attack the engine with tools. I would give it some time, because
but you
the
might
oil-
have to flush it another time or two.
Yeah, you may
because
have.
I don't mind doing that.
Yeah,
there's probably a lot of sludge buildup over those 150 hours, and the cam guard is just going to help, dissolve the sludge and possibly get it to start clogging up elsewhere. So
do some more flushes.
there's probably nothing wrong with the engine except for sludge buildup, and you may just have to do a couple of more ring washes. If the ring washes go smoothly, then you can say, okay, we won the war. We won't have to do it anymore.
And this is not a safety of flight concern.
No.
So no matter what you do.
Well, it's only a safety of flight concern if you run out of oil before you run out of gas.
Well,
and that's more of a problem when you only have 6 quarts in the sump. But
I've had some long flights where that's become an issue for me. But it might explain why after the first ring wash, everything seemed to be cured. And my oil burn slowed right down. It was like the first 10 hours before I had to put another cord in, and then it started to speed up again, and that would sludging up again.
I think that's pretty conclusive evidence that we know what's wrong.
I agree.
Yeah.
So he's got a constant speed prop on the plane.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is it's with an MT propeller, and I run at aggressively leaner peak. I ran at richer peak for a while and used to run at about 100 degrees richer peak. Again, at the advice that I shouldn't do that, run at leaner peak too soon. But I think in hindsight, I should have just been flying it normally from about, as soon as the mags were fixed at 20 hours, I should have just
that's probably right.
Put the right oil in and just got on with it.
Yep, absolutely. We would agree.
I ask about the prop because if you have high sludge buildup in the plane, there might be sludge in the crankshaft, hollow crankshaft. You have to pull the prop to clean that out.
Yeah.
Well, you pull the prop, but
pull the prop and clean it out. But
Doesn't that affect cycling the prop? You might notice a difference with the
Yeah,
operation
if
of the governor
if you're not having any governing problems, then I wouldn't worry about it. If
I'm
if
not-
the prop seems sluggish, then it's probably worth pulling it and cleaning it out.
Yeah, and the W100 is the right oil to use then? We don't tend to use, I mean, you could use 20, what is it, the Phillips?
20W50.
Both of those are good choices.
Yep.
Okay.
It depends on the climate. You know, if it's a temperate climate, I would use single weight oil.
Are you
Well,
North
it's New
Island or
Zealand.
South Island? Well,
Yeah.
I'm in Wellington, just north of Wellington. So it gets cold. We get a frost, but, and I do fly IFR with a little bit of in the cold, but the cold starts aren't like you guys where it's minus 20 or 30. Down south, it would get that cold.
yeah.
Are you using CamGuard?
I've just added it in this 100 at the 150 hour mark.
Yeah, that's a real good idea. But the problem, you know, if the engine's using a quart every 4 hours, and you only have 6 quarts in the sump, and we know that the IO550N starts sucking foam when it gets down to 3.5, that pretty well
Ragged
limits your range.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had a 12-quart sump, you know, which is what God intended that engine to have, then you wouldn't be worried about that. But
I have to carry a fair bit of oil when I go away.
Yeah. So
And
when
it's,
you
every top up of fuel is
you know how
oil.
you know how those B2s were mid-air refueled. You're going to have to be mid-air re-oiled.
re-oil it.
I heard today they had 17 refueling stops and the trip was 36 hours. That's pretty
That's
Unbelievable.
So out of Wellington, when you go, quote, over water,
Yep.
where, I mean, are you leaving the 2 islands or
Yes.
are you, where do you go?
So I fly from Paraparaumu, which is a small airport 30 kilometres north of Wellington, and I fly directly west to the top of the South Island where my father-in-law lives. So we have 100 miles over water. So I'm just about to do the AD on the doors to so that if we have a problem and end up ditching, which happened to another plane colleague ditched doing the same trip recently in the last 6 months, and plane flipped over. It was a Piper Tripacer, and he was on his own, but he just dropped his in-laws at home, and he flipped his plane, managed to get out, and had a personal locator beacon on him, and was able to be rescued by Air Sea Rescue with a helicopter. He's a very lucky man.
Wow.
100 miles.
Yeah, that's enough exposure to end up in the drink at the wrong time. You can't fly high enough to protect yourself. Wow.
Well, you've got the IO550N. Now you need
It's a great engine. Yeah, now you need caps.
Caps. Oh. Wow.
Well, I think we've got you fixed up. Put in the right oil. You may have to do some ring washes. I think you're going to be good to go.
Yeah, I'm pleased I did the ring wash the second time because that's really helped explain why the oil comes up again. Because again, there was another cylinder gummed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, and what your experience points out again is the value of a ring wash as a diagnostic procedure.